their mobility and service delivery.
And today, we have the greatest pleasure to donate cars to the Immigration Department and also to the police and also to the National Cultural, the National Center for Arts and Culture. Now that's a very important office because the Gambia takes pride on culture, and we know that they're doing a very good job, and this is why we thought that we should enhance what they're trying to do.
Speaking on behalf of the recipients, Hazum Sise of the NCAC expressed his gratitude to the challenge.
I wish to thank the challenge for this wonderful gift to government departments, the immigration, the police, and the National Center for Arts and Culture. I should express particular thanks to Mr. Gomez for his profound interest in the development of tourism and culture in the Gambia.
After the usual formalities, the beneficiaries were shown their vehicles, which it is hoped will enable them overcome mobility problems at their various institutions. Mamadou Diallo, GRTS.
On our website at www. They can also monitor. That takes us to our first break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. There has been a potentially critical advance in breast cancer research. Scientists in the United Kingdom, France, and the Netherlands say they have mapped out the genetic code of the most common type of hereditary breast cancer. Dr. Rachel Natrajan of the Breakthrough Breast Cancer Research Center spoke to CNN's Jonathan Mann about the significance of the said breakthrough.
We looked at hereditary breast cancer, and we're really excited about the results of our research. So what we found is that by sequencing at a deep level hereditary breast cancer, we found that these tumours are incredibly complex. So hereditary breast cancer is caused by defaults in the BRCA1 gene, and women with this faulty BRCA1 gene have a much more higher incidence of developing breast cancer throughout their whole lifetime. And what we also know about this disease, that it is quite aggressive and tends to affect younger women. So what we've done is to take two patients with hereditary breast cancer, with this faulty breast cancer gene, and unravelled for the first time the complete genetic map of these two tumours.
Well, let me jump in on that thought. Why is the genetic profile of a cancer so important? I mean, isn't every cancer, whatever its genetic makeup, an enemy?
Well, this is the first time that we've been able to map at a very high resolution the complete genetic code of this type of hereditary breast cancer. And what's interesting is these breast cancers are initially caused by the faulty BRCA1 gene, but what we found is that they're completely different in every other respect to each other. So what we now know is that they're much more complex than we originally thought, and that we now know that we need to look at these patients' tumours in much more detail to be able to understand them.
Can you make them better? Is this going to affect treatment?
We hope that this eventually will affect treatment, yes. I mean, what we can do is now try and tailor the treatment for the patients to the individual by looking at the detailed genetic defects that these tumours have. So what we're trying to do is ultimately personalise treatment for patients with hereditary breast cancer.
Now, women already undergo genetic testing in some cases, women whose family have hereditary chains of breast cancer. A lot of women know about that already. How different does that become with the additional knowledge that you and your team have gained?
So this doesn't change the screening of women with hereditary breast cancer. This will hopefully in the future change the way these breast cancers are treated, because we originally thought that these breast cancers were one group and they are treated with the same chemotherapies, but we now know that we need to go and look in much more detail in these tumours, and then we can identify genes that are faulty on top of the BRCA1 gene that we can target with new therapies.
Now, all of this, despite the enormous efforts being made by good people like yourself and experts around the world, the fight against cancer, I mean, it's centuries old. It doesn't seem to move fast enough, obviously, for people who are suffering from it or people who are afraid of it. How quickly will this kind of advance actually change things for women?
Yeah, so here at the Institute of Cancer Research and the Breakthrough Breast Cancer Centre, we're in quite a unique position because we're located right next door to the Royal Marsden Hospital, and there we work very closely with clinicians and oncologists, and we're trying our hardest to translate our findings from the laboratory into clinical practice. So that means we can easily set up clinical trials with new drugs that are coming through and try and help benefit patients with hereditary breast cancer.
Half $1 billion treasure from a centuries-old shipwreck is now in Spain. 2 Spanish military planes touched down on Saturday in Madrid, ending a 200-year journey and an enormous legal battle. CNN's Madrid chief Bureau Al Goodman has been discussing that with Jonathan Mann, as well as the scandal that hit the Spanish royal family.
Jonathan, well, this treasure has already crossed the Atlantic Ocean 2 times. First, we go back to 1804. Spain took it from its then colony, Peru, across the Atlantic Ocean on a Spanish warship, got to within a day's sail of Spain, but it was intercepted by a British fleet, which sunk this ship. The treasure and 200 lives on that ship went down to the bottom of the sea. Now we fast forward to 2007. A Florida company, Odyssey Marine Exploration, finds it, brings it up, flies it over to Florida, and lays claim to it in U.S. courts. Well, Spain laid claim to it too. That legal battle you refer to has now ended. Odyssey appealed all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court but lost, and the court said Spain gets it, and Spain now has it. Jonathan?
What happens to it now? We're looking at these pictures. I was expecting to see it in wooden casks overflowing with gems and pearls. It seems rather sanitary, but what are they going to do with all of it?
Well, most of it is silver. There's also some gold, some of the fabled pieces of 8 that you've heard about all these years. Now, the culture minister told us just recently it's not about the money, Jonathan. He says they're not going to use it to bail Spain out of its deep economic crisis. Instead, this is part of the heritage of Spain. They'll put it on display in museums. However, Peru is also said to be interested in some of this because it came from that area. Spain says it might be willing to give some of it to Peru to put in its museums there. Jonathan?
Okay, a very different story now. It's not about the money in mind. Trouble for the royal family. Tell us about that.
Well, the son-in-law of King Juan Carlos, his title is the Duke of Palma after he married the king's youngest daughter, Princess Cristina, Iñaki Urdangarin, in court this day as testifying as a suspect in a fraud scandal. He's under suspicion that public funds, which his foundation gained from regional governments in Spain, ended up for his private use. Now, here's what he had to say as he walked into the courthouse. Let's listen to his statement to reporters.
I'm here today to demonstrate my innocence. During these years, I have carried out my responsibilities and have made decisions in a correct manner and with total transparency. My intention today is to clear up the truth about the facts.
This is totally unprecedented for the Spanish royal family that someone would be testifying as a suspect. However, there is no trial yet, and it's unclear whether formal charges will be brought against him. Jonathan?
I'm just curious about the prince, though. Does he have much of a public following? Is he known to have a checkered reputation?